Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Camnet Breakfast Show. I'm your host, Patrick Soko, and as usual, on a day like this, I'm not alone. I am with my colleague, Makokwa Kozi. Good morning, Kozi.
Good morning, Patrick. It's good to be here this morning. It's a beautiful morning. Summer is upon us now. It's getting hot, but it's a good weather also. We are hoping that we have good rains this year.
Indeed, and we, as usual, the climatic conditions is still unpredictable. A lot of things or eventualities happening. We've seen that we have a cyclone that is being described as very dangerous that has hit Mexico, and you know, those things tend to affect the global community, and we are usually affected on the in Africa, especially on the Mozambican side. We continue to see a lot of devastation pertaining to cyclones, and those also tend to affect Zambia because we are also near to that. Though we are in the middle, but we are also sometimes affected because of such eventualities. But we can only hope for the best. But Kozi, are we still keeping it positive?
We are going to continue keeping it positive. We are going to continue tapping into Mimi's positive vibes. We need to always remain positive and focused for us to have a successful day.
Indeed. So we are keeping it positive. I hope you are also keeping it positive. And remember that the Camnet Breakfast Show is free for interaction, and we want to make sure that you, our dear viewers, wherever you are watching us from, make sure that you give us that call. We want to hear from you, and we'll be glad to just get your perspective on various issues that we'll be looking at. Interesting stories that we had in last evening's news, and we'll be zooming the stories later on the program. And to just get started with the program, let's look at the health corner with the doctors.
Good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubia Namfaya. So this week we are talking about anxiety disorder, and yesterday we talked about some of the types of anxiety disorder. We say that there is what we call generalized anxiety disorder, then there is also panic attack and social anxiety disorder, and also specific disorders. So today we'll talk about some of the signs and symptoms of anxiety disorders. Now, before we talk about some of the signs and symptoms, let me just briefly talk about the causes. People who have anxiety disorder, usually it's caused by probably being in a situation where they were traumatized by a certain experience. So it could stem from trauma. So if someone has an experience where they were traumatized in a social situation, and they were so embarrassed and they couldn't cope, or the response was so overwhelming for them, then they might develop social phobia, for example. Somebody who was traumatized because maybe they encountered a snake, they might have phobia to animals. And so these are phobias that can develop due to a certain trauma that occurred in a person's life. The other cause is that it might be genetic, for example. So if somebody would maybe develop a certain predisposition to have low self-esteem or depression, they might also have a tendency to have anxiety in certain situations. So they might have generalized anxiety, where they feel anxious for different things, and they can't ride in a bus, they can't go out, they can't do certain normal things that people would normally do. They're afraid of being married, they're afraid of having children, they're afraid of owning a dog. So those are generalized anxieties. And these people would not only have one specific a fear or a phobia, but they would have a number of things that would affect them. So they can they could possibly have inherited a gene that could have caused them to have such behaviors. Then the other thing is alcohol abuse, drug abuse, caffeine can also predispose people to having anxiety disorders. Some of these drinks that we are taking, the alcohol, can actually lead to having anxiety disorders. So those are some of the causes of anxiety disorders, and usually the brain would produce hormones, or the body would produce certain chemicals that would overwhelm the body itself and overwhelm the person, and so that is how come they have this exaggerated fear towards certain objects or certain situations. Now, coming to the symptoms. So with generalized anxiety disorder, people with generalized anxiety disorder would have symptoms of being restless, symptoms of fear, symptoms of fatigue. So they would have fatigue, they would be restless, they would have difficulties sleeping, difficulties concentrating, and these symptoms would come about because they are having a lot of anxious thoughts, and they're having a lot of thoughts that maybe something would go wrong, and the fear is so overwhelming that they might even fail to function on a day-to-day basis. And usually these symptoms would have to be there for at least 6 months. So they come, they go, they come and go, and they come on most days in a week. So it's not every day. Maybe sometimes the person is just calm and they're okay, but maybe they are exposed to this situation and they have these fears. They have all these feelings of being restless, feelings of being losing control in those situations. So if those symptoms continue for about 6 months, then we would say that the person has generalized anxiety disorder. Then when it comes to panic attack, a person would usually experience symptoms of sweating. So they would have this, they'll start sweating so much, they have palpitations, their heart feels like it's racing, and they just can't focus in that at that point. So it's usually because of a specific a situation. Maybe they're about to write an exam, or they're about to travel, or they're about to deliver a speech, and they become very anxious, so they start panicking. So they would have sometimes they might even have a headache, they would have chest pain, abdominal pain, nausea, they might even develop diarrhea. So those are some of the symptoms that people with a panic attack would have. And these panic attacks can sometimes mimic a heart attack. So some patients would even think they are experiencing a heart attack because maybe they're having chest pain and they're having all these palpitations. But when you go to the hospital, they would most likely test you to see if you had any cardiac or heart problem, but there would be nothing. And the only way we can, the only thing that would make sense is that the person was having a panic attack in that situation. So those are some of the symptoms of people who would have a generalized anxiety disorder and even panic attacks. For specific phobias and social anxiety disorder, they would have the similar kind of symptoms where their heart is racing, they are restless, and they're sweating, and maybe feeling like they're losing control, out of control, and in those situations, so depending on the type of phobia it is, they would experience these symptoms. Depending on whether it's a social phobia or phobia for animals, they would experience those symptoms. So that is how you can differentiate generalized anxiety disorder from panic attack and also specific phobias. The other thing with generalized anxiety disorder, it would be there for about 6 months, while for panic attacks, it's usually in certain situations or certain social events or situations where a person has to write an exam or deliver a speech. With social phobia, it would be people who are about to attend an event, a wedding, a function, a party, and they become so afraid of meeting people or afraid of being embarrassed or being ridiculed in those situations. Then for people who would have specific phobias, it would be because they have encountered a specific animal or a specific situation which really makes them afraid and makes them get worried so much. So that is how you can tell the symptoms from each other. The other thing with generalized anxiety disorder, they would have sleep disturbances. So they can't sleep well at night on most days of the week. And they are struggling so much to sleep, and so they become fatigued and they become very tired. So I hope you have learned something today. If you miss any other episodes, you can watch them on my YouTube channel. Please invite your friends to watch The Breakfast Show and to learn a lot about health and other topics that are discussed on The Breakfast Show. I'll see you again tomorrow. Make sure you invite your friends. Stay blessed and stay healthy.
Wow, there you have it. That's an interesting topic for today, talking about phobias. And Cozy, what phobia do you have?
Do I have a phobia? Water. I think, I don't know how they call it, hydro something phobia.
Hydrophobia?
Yes, I think, not just water, I think...
Heights?
No. Water, not water in a pool, but water on rivers.
Okay.
Large bodies of water. I think I have a phobia of that. And what else? I hate snakes.
Okay.
And cats.
What about dogs?
Dogs, I think dogs I'm okay, but cats and snakes, those I think.
You mean you cannot go to Charimbana and put that?
No, that I can't do.
You cannot.
That I can't do.
And I wanted to surprise you on your birthday. So I think I did well.
Yeah, you did well. That wouldn't have been a surprise. You know, there are things that. Do you have something that has ever happened that you would say traumatized you?
Yeah, there are some episodes, yeah.
Yeah, so I think also that would traumatize me. Putting a snake around my neck like that would traumatize me for a long time.
Interesting. Well, there you have it. And we're looking at phobias today on the Off Corner, especially with Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. And I hope you did manage to learn one or two things. But in case you missed the breakfast show, you can still go back on our Facebook page and do a rewind and get to listen to the Off Corner so that you just get yourself informed. You know, it is important that you are well informed so that nobody takes advantage of you and mislead you. It's better you are a well-informed citizen. And always remember, one critical ingredient of being an informed citizen is listening to news and also watching progressive programs so that you get to know what is happening. Take interest in national affairs. Let's talk about the national budget. What is your interest? You need to look out for a lot of things. If you're not taking an interest in such matters, then you risk being misled because people create stories. I've attended, I've met a lot of people, for example, sharing stories because I'd wanted to say, but I'm a journalist. Why am I ignorant about this? This is what is happening. And you tell this because People just they just brought issues out of proportion. You get half-baked information, you just go and subject it to others, you know. So with this advent of social media, everyone else wants to claim to be a journalist. Even those people do not even understand how to verify information, how to make sure that information is authenticated, and they just put it there. And people who are not who are unsuspecting, I just think it is true. Because they think probably it has been posted on Facebook, probably it is true. But most of the things that we also see, especially on some of these pages that lack credibility, are not factual, they're just assumptions. So, and someone may not even taken time to do due diligence on that information. So it is important that you get to yourself acquainted to credible sources of information. Just like here on Camnet TV, make sure that you don't miss the 1930 main news, where we can give you just an idea of whatever is happening across the country.
Speaking of false news, there was a story that went viral, especially in the southern province, that there is a man that had turned into a crocodile. So it made headlines on most of the social media pages, especially in the southern province. And also, there was even a recording of the so-called wife saying, no, my husband had gone to... So the story is that this man had done juju. He was a fisherman, so he would turn into a crocodile to catch fish. And unfortunately, that particular day, now the instruction was that when you get to the river, take off your clothes and then keep them somewhere and then go into the river, you will turn into a crocodile. So unfortunately, that day, as he was a crocodile in the water, some people came and picked his clothes. So when he came out of the water, there were no clothes. So he wouldn't turn back into the human being because the clothes were not there. So he walked as a crocodile from the river to home. And the wife says, I was just surprised to see the crocodile coming and is headed straight into the house. So when I got in the house, the crocodile started speaking to me and said, no, don't be afraid, my wife. It is me, your husband. So this is what happened and this is what happened. So the wife decides to take the husband back to the same magician who gave them the juju to be turning into the crocodile. And when they reached that village, they were told, no, that Nganga died 2 months ago. So now the man is still a crocodile and they've taken him to a zoo.
But what is the truth about that story? Tell us.
No, that's just a concocted story.
You see? You see? And the way you're narrating it, someone may think, actually, that's it.
And you know, there was even a voice note of somebody who was calling that particular woman who was giving that testimony. So there's a woman who complained, but look, the first thing is when such a thing happened, they must report it somewhere.
Yes, to the police.
Authorities. Yes, police or and who gave them authority to take it to the zoo?
Yes, you see.
So then you get, because
ultimately that crocodile is speaking.
Yes. When he got home, he was actually telling the wife, so don't be afraid, I'm your husband.
Yeah, I think that's the danger about misinformation, you see.
So it's important, much as we look at news on social media, it's important to take time to listen to the mainstream media, listen to radio, listen to TV, because news that is on TV or on radio is authentic, whether you like it or not. It is just done by professionals, well-verified news. So even as we read these social media pages, always let's try and also listen to mainstream news.
Interesting. Thank you for those perspective and that story that is fake. And that story Makoko's narrating to me is one of the examples of 4 stories we may end up hearing. Say, I heard it. The Camnet.
Yes.
Makoko was narrating that someone
did. Even Camnet has confirmed that story.
Yeah, so that's a 4 story, and that's an example of how people tend to mislead each other in these communities. So we have to be careful and make sure that you consume information from the right sources. We have quite a number of credible media houses in Zambia and international media houses that you can be glued to. Don't preoccupy your mind every time with social media and also entertainment that continues to pop on social media. Make sure you feed your mind with something useful and something that is going to earn you money. And sometimes, you know, because those people who are on social media are actually making money out of you watching those those comedy and everything you are watching throughout the day. So make sure you also consume things that are going to be helpful for your news. For example, you're only going to know about government's procedure about recruitments if you're going to listen to the mainstream media or follow social media pages that are credible. So that is something that you need to look out for.
Yeah. Very, very important.
And moving on, let's have a look at the next segment, which is the money market, so that we just see probably if our culture today is behaving accordingly. But unfortunately, it is not behaving accordingly, as we can see that $1 is buying at 21 kwacha 27 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 69 ngwe. The Greater British Pound is buying at 26 kwacha 05 ngwe and selling at 26 kwacha 56 ngwe. The Euro is buying at 22 kwacha 53 ngwe and selling at 22 kwacha 97 ngwe. The South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha 11 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 13 ngwe or 1 kwacha 13 ngwe. Those are your money market updated this morning on the 11th of October 2023 at 0713. As per financial institution that we do monitor, we are seeing that the kwacha has been on a 21 range this week, unfortunately, and we have to continue to brace ourselves and continue to tighten our belts so that we just withstand the economic shocks that we are facing. We have a 2-digit inflation, and that is also a reflection of how prices of commodities are increasing on the market. So don't be surprised when you're going into various shops, you bought something at a 20 kwacha and it's at 30 kwacha this week. Don't be surprised, just get prepared and let's get to adjust. But anyway, I understand the way the economy functions, Cozy, is that there are always alternatives. You know, whenever things go like that, I wonder that's where we saw, for example, the booming of substandard clothes, where usually we used to call them kamwala, you know, whereby because that other trousers you want to buy, that jean trousers, is a bit expensive. So, but these guys will innovate something. They will innovate something that you can still put on and say you'll get it at 100 kwacha, not 200 kwacha, based on the other original. So it is the same even on products. So we see also a mushrooming of substandard products as substitutes that can come. They also I also have to be categorical, because the substitute can also be of a good standard, but sometimes some substitute can be gonga, and they may be detrimental or substandard in terms of food. They can be some food that can also get you sick because of the quality controls that we are missing.
I think that on that score we can compromise with anything else apart from food, and I think drugs like medicines. I think we need to get to original stores. Especially if you're getting drugs or food, don't compromise on food. Don't go and buy substandard, what do they call, sausage made in the backyard of some certain house in John Howard or in Komboka. I think no, we need to be very careful when it comes to food, and let me just say when it comes to consumables. Because now I hear that even drinks are manufactured in Matera. So it is very, very important that we get to authentic stores as we get consumables. And I think medicines, it's very, very important that even though substandard may be cheap, but cheap is expensive in this case. Indeed,
cheap is expensive, because we cannot run away from that fact. But let's also look at some of the stories that we have. What are we looking at this morning?
We have a number of interesting stories that are making the headlines this particular morning that we did see in yesterday's main news on Camnet TV. Remember that you can catch our main news at exactly 19:30 every evening. With latest news on channel 274 on DSTV, channel 25 on GoTV, and channel 106 on Topstar. So the first story that we are looking at this morning comes from the Ministry of Information and Media, And it says government says severe water shortages in Lusaka are being caused by routine ZESCO maintenance works affecting installations of water supply. Now, Minister of Information and Media Cornelius Mwetwa says Lusaka was expected to experience reduced water supply following Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company shutdown of Iolanda 1 treatment plant. Now, speaking during a press briefing Tuesday, Mr. Mwetwa, however, said that the water shortages have been worsened by ZESCO maintenance works, and the government is collaborating with the ministries to ensure that issue is addressed. Mr. Mwetwa has since disclosed that works on Iolanda 1 water treatment plant have been completed, and in 21 days the company will carry out a pressure test on the repaired pipeline. Let's have a look at this report.
Lusaka in recent weeks has experienced scarce water supply, which has been attributed to the shutdown of Iolanda 1 water treatment plant in Kafiwe to pave way for repairs. The severe water shortage in several parts of the city is, however, in contrast with Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company's promise of only reduced water supply, which would follow a timetable. Now, government has admitted the water shortages being experienced are beyond the anticipated following repair works at Iolanda treatment plant.
This is as a result of routine major maintenance works being undertaken presently by ZESCO ahead of the rainy season, where ZESCO experiences electricity supply disruptions.
Chief Government spokesperson Cornelius Mwetwa has since disclosed that repair works on the 900 mm damaged pipeline are done, and normal water supply to Lusaka is expected in 21 days.
Completed as of Friday 29th September 2023. The spillage point has been sealed, and the engineers who were working on that particular point have given themselves 21 days from that date of 29th September 2023 for the curation of the cement and other substances that they used to seal off that spillage.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mwetwa has contended that there is no shame in listening to cries of citizens on current fuel pricing following President Hakainde Hichilema's directive to have the monthly fuel pricing mechanism interrogated.
Camnet instruction to Minister PS Energy. This is damning indictment of trial and error. There is no shame in us as a government saying we are heeding to the demands of our electorates. The president has been telling the citizens that you are our masters, we are the servants. Which servant gets shy to take an instruction from their master? So the government has heard these concerns.
For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
Thank you very much, Afias, for that particular report talking about the water blues. How is the water situation in your area?
Yeah, it has been pretty much the same. We have seen it's not predictable in terms of what time we are going to have water, and that has been prompting people to just be on the lookout. Wake up as late as 04 to go and check out if there's water. Just like that, sometimes others are leaving the taps open, so that when the water comes, you just hear the noise and you'll be able to wake up. Yeah, that is some of the mechanisms. But yes, if we had a predictable timetable, but again, I think there's another aspect into that. You did hear the minister explaining the aspect of load shedding, or not load shedding rather, but ZESCO maintenance works. We have seen that there. In various communities, there are people who are installing poles from ZESCO, replacing the old poles and putting the new cables. and everything. So that project also is equally affecting water supply, because you'd find that the entire section would be cut off from electricity at the time when Lusaka Water has, for example, said we are going to have water there, but how are you going to pump the water to go to people's homes? So that has also been another problem. So we have two issues there. Apart from Lusaka Water shutdowns, we also have the issue of electricity that is affecting this issue.
And also the minister says works on Iolanda 1 treatment plant have been completed, so they are just waiting to check the pressure. But the issue is that the electric power supply also has exacerbated the problem as regards water supply to the communities. Indeed, it has exacerbated the problem, and we hope that it is resolved as soon as possible. But before we move on from Mr. Mwetwa Kozi, we also had another aspect pertaining to the former president. Yes, and this is what we are looking at this morning as our topic. So if you have any contributions as regards to the topic this morning, you can go to our Facebook page and then leave your contributions on this particular broadcast. We'll be more than happy to hear from you. And we are also going to be opening the phone lines shortly so that you can call the numbers on your screens and give us your thoughts on what we are looking at this morning. But this is the story that we are looking at this particular morning, and it says Chief Government Spokesperson Cornelius Mwetwa says the government is consulting legal experts on revelations that Patriotic Front PF that former Republican President Edgar Lungu remains the party's substantive leader as he was elected during the convention. Now, Mr. Mwetwa says the sentiments attributed to PF Deputy Chairperson Bowman Lusambo, who also indicated that Mr. Lungu would contest the 2026 elections, receiving unnecessary attention, and the nation will be updated. He stressed that former President Lungu enjoys certain benefits as a former statesman in retirement, and hopes PF is aware of the legal ramifications of the revelations on his political career. Let's have a look at this.
Necessary and relevant considerations with legal ramifications will be had on those pronouncements, and the nation will be updated on the same once experts at law have given guidance, because Zambia is a creature of law, and the New Dawn administration government is a government of laws, not of men, and we stand to be guided by the law as to how to respond in the face of those revelations which cannot go unnoticed. And we are pretty much confident that our colleagues in the Patriot Front are aware of the ramifications of their pronouncements, given that former President Edgar Lungu occupies a special place in Zambia.
Agitated opposition Patriotic Front members of parliament last week Friday, 6th October 2023, alleged ill treatment by presiding officers during parliamentary proceedings at the National Assembly. In that regard, leader of opposition members of parliament Brian Munduwile called for the resignation of the second deputy speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Moyo, on grounds of being incompetent, which has led to the shrinking dignity of the National Assembly.
Going to allow those to speak. There's going to be a problem here. Honorable, we are ready to be punished, Mr. Speaker. We will not continue with this mediocre. We will not continue with this mediocre. For as long as you only allow them to speak, my members cannot speak. No, we can't allow this. This is a house of order. I am ready to face the consequences on behalf of my members. I cannot continue.
Following this altercation, last week, the government chief whip in the National Assembly, Stanford Mulusa, has condemned the decision by Mr. Mundubile. Mr. Mulusa explains that the National Assembly is guided by the standing orders which provide proper channels when one is aggrieved, hence Mr. Mundubile's conduct is unjustifiable.
So immediately you stand on your own and you start talking, addressing the presiding officer, you are offside. You are offside. And I think as the government chief whip, I'm really happy that it is not happening on the side of the ruling party. But I'm sad that it is happening in the House.
Addressing the media Tuesday, Mr. Mulusa challenged MPs to observe high standards of discipline and accustom themselves to the standing orders of Parliament to ensure decency is restored. The Chief Whip has also hinted at the review of standing orders.
To attract the committee privileges and accesses, it means that some of the people that are involved in misbehaving in the House are subject to development in the correct manner, in a fair manner, so that by the end of the day, the committee will come up with a decision. That is how we work in Parliament.
Meanwhile, Opposition Patriotic Front Mafinga Member of Parliament Robert Chavinga expects senior members to be examples to new and upcoming MPs.
What happened is very unfortunate, and it was coming to our seniors that have been veterans in Parliament, and I don't know what to learn from them, because the procedures very straightforward. When somebody is aggrieved, there are procedures just like what the chief whip said, government chief whip. So there are procedures, there are not ways about it.
With the current happenings in the National Assembly, is Mr. Mundubile on the wrong side of the standing orders, or does the House need to refocus towards its mandate? Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Well, there you have it. Those are interesting issues. They are emerging in the political landscape, because quite a number of issues that did come through there. We were looking at a story where Mr. Cornelius Mwetwa was giving his perspective pertaining to the statements that were attributed to Kabushi constituency lawmaker, former lawmaker Boman Lusambo, saying that the Lungu, former President Edgar Lungu remains a substantive leader for the PF, and that I may contest the 2026 general election. And the government said he was saying that he hopes that they know the repercussions, and probably if they should consider him still active in politics, so that they can take legal action, so that probably he may be treated as a political opponent. That's according to Mr. Mwitwa there. So and another story was where the chief government whip Stanford Mulusa was condemning his counterpart from the opposition, Mr. Brian Mundubile, following his altercation with the third deputy speaker regarding what he cited as unfair treatment in the House of Opposition members of Parliament. And those ones came in support of the deputy speaker, saying that was unparliamentary for Mr. Mundubile to come out like that. And overall, I don't know what you think about that.
Firstly, I want to talk about the first story, where Chief Government spokesperson was talking about the consequences that may follow.
Yes.
As regards talking about the former president who, remember, had tendered a letter, cabinet, to say he's retiring from active politics. Now, the Registrar of Society yesterday did issue a statement in guiding political parties as what the regulations say when the leader of a political party either retires or dies or leaves the position for any reason, what should be done. And we've seen that the opposition patriotic front has had no leader for a while now, and they have not gone to a confession to come up with a leader of the political party. Instead, They have an acting president, a vice president given Luwinda, who has now appointed some senior positions, SG and other senior positions. He has appointed some people to take up those positions. Now, it is interesting to wait and see what is going to happen in the next few months in the Patriotic Front, if they are going for the convention, or how they are going to come up with the leadership of the political party, because we have now seen what I would term as a warning or a wake-up call from the Registrar of Societies. So it is interesting to see what is going to transpire now, what is going to happen now in the Patriotic Front as regards that particular matter. The issue of Mr. Mundubile, I think that Mr. Murusa has said my mind. There are standing orders in the National Assembly that guide the operations of the House. So for me, actually what I think, Mr. Honorable Mundubile must face the wrath of the standing orders in Parliament. What do they say? And if you are aggrieved in Parliament, what is the procedure? What do you do? Do you just go on the floor of the House as he did and start pouring out all your grievances on the floor of the House?
But what would be your view? Do you think it would the manner in which presiding officer handling the House could also be a source of concern? Because probably they feel we're not being treated fairly.
Yeah, they remember I have been saying that this is not the first time I've heard it, especially from Brandon Mundubile, to say the House is not treating the opposition fairly. He has made that statement before, and now I think that on that particular day, Mr. Mundubile felt he should come out now. I don't know whether he was acting on emotions, but you could see that he was emotionally charged. And there is a consequence. And he says in that statement, he said that I am ready to face the consequences. So I think let the standing orders take its course.
Indeed, there you have it. Those are some of the stories that we were looking at. And moving on, let's also have a look at a story where the electoral stakeholders have expressed a disappointment that the police have continued to use the Public Order Act to silence government critics in the country. Africa Democratic Economic Development Organization, Zambia Must Change Now, or also known as Adedo Zamkano, Vice President Daniel Nyati has urged the police to abide by the President Hakainde Hichilema's aspiration on the need to uphold people's liberties. And Operation Young Vote Executive Director Ges Nyirenda says the Public Gatherings Bill must be enacted into law in the current session of Parliament. Let's have a look at this story. We'll be back. Keep it on Camnet TV.
Mr. General, you know what you need to do, and you know what you do best for the country. Activate your troops and make them ready to deal with any non-law-abiding citizen. Because we wanted to express ourselves, we've been told that our bonds will be broken. We've been told that we'll be met with the new equipment that was acquired by the police. We've refused to be scared. We've refused to be intimidated by those that we've given power to govern and manage our resources and our affairs.
The Zambian political landscape has seen a similar pattern that is seemingly far from over, where the freedom of assembly and association continue to be put to test even under the new dispensation, amidst the assurances by President Hakainde Hichilema to create a better political atmosphere.
Needs other parts of the friendly global world need. Because of your own requirements, we need to combine those with our own requirements. What is that? Is to value add here, to process here, with your technology, with your capital, with our resource endowment, with our friendship, we'll make it work.
Many have been compelled to wonder whether it is a question of insubordination because the police stance on public political gatherings has remained the same, and opposition leaders continue to cry foul, claiming that the country's civic space is shrinking, thus getting people thinking what goes wrong, or in the case of the PF, is it an issue of subjecting them to a taste of their own medicine?
It's not a question of what happened before. No. It is a question of what is happening now going into the future. Members were expecting that the Vice President will address the rally at 15 hours. And a lot of people have been calling, we are coming, we are bringing busloads of people.
Last week, the opposition Socialist Party was prevented from holding a political gathering on the Copper Belt on account of lack of manpower. Africa Democratic and Economic Development Organization, Zambia Must Change Now, or in short, Adedo Zamkano, Party Vice President Daniel Nyati has implored the UPND administration to create a conducive political environment.
We demand that this democratic space be given. The duty of the police is to make sure that they police these events and not really to stop the conveners from having this. It's not only political parties. We have seen other people that notified the police with a view to assemble, but the police declined. We saw that there is a planned demonstration coming up on the 18th of October, and the police are hesitant on that matter. We are really looking forward to see to it that the UPND government upholds people's rights, people's freedoms to association, people's freedom to assembly. As Zamkano, we are worried because the UPND appears to be worse than the PF.
Operation Young Vote Executive Director Guest Nyurenda regrets that the Public Order Act is still being advanced to silence divergent views. He has since called for the speedy enactment of the Public Gatherings Bill and repeal the Public Order Act.
So we are appealing that that stage should actually be concluded as soon as possible, so that before this parliament goes on recess, before this sitting, adjourns, the Public Gatherings Bill or law, bill must be enacted into law, to the point that we should actually be given this particular law as a gift for our festive season.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
That is a very interesting topic, the issue of the political parties and gatherings. It is interesting, very, very interesting, that Public Order Act, what I have come to learn is that it's nice when you're in power. It's always rough on the opposition. When the PF was in the opposition, they fought, and that was one of the campaign promises. I remember Mr. Sata saying, yes, when we come, we will repeal the Public Order Act. That act is a cake. That act was meant for the whites who wanted to oppress the
blacks.
As they were gathering, they didn't want them to gather to make strategies of how they were going to fight. So that is how they made sure that they blocked them from going ahead with their meetings. When we come into power, we are going to repeal that particular law. They are in power, it has become sweet.
Indeed.
Did you hear the PF Vice President, the first statement in that news? He said it is not about what used to happen then. It is about what is happening now. Because then it was them in power and it was sweet.
Yes.
Now they are in opposition and it is on them. It is against them. So it is nice when you are in office. But when you're out of office, when you are in the opposition, you always talk about repealing it.
You talk about repealing
so
it.
So it needs somebody who is, it needs very honest politicians. And politicians that are looking to the future, not about their stay in office. Politicians that look to the future. But everybody speaks like that when they are in opposition. When they are on that particular seat, Public Order Act is not an issue that you want to touch soon. You leave it. Otherwise, PF were blocked from having the rally. There was no manpower. Tsangamai, socialists were blocked. Police said there was no manpower. But did you see how many police officers went to make sure that the rally does not take place?
All right. But and those same police officers were supposed to man the line. But they were just going to go and stop there. How does it work? Tell me something. Because they're the same people. What were they doing there? They should have just stuck around and police the land.
I remember the UPND would even say, we don't need police to hold.
We can put our own marshals.
Yes, we can put our own marshals. Police would still say, do not go ahead. There's no manpower. And when they insist they will go ahead, the following morning, the day of the rally, you see how many police officers will be at the event. And they're saying there's no manpower. Just like what happened in Kitu. You will see, they'll tell you there's no manpower. And then when you insist and say, no, there's no problem, we will protect ourselves, we will provide our own security. You will see how many land cruisers, those and police in riot gear will be at the event to make sure that the rally does not take place.
So I think for me, it's better you let it take place so you don't have manpower. Then you come and question them to say, but you went ahead with that when we told you you don't have manpower.
Yes.
But now what happens if you go and exhibit manpower preventing the event from taking place?
The same manpower that would have provided security to the event.
Yeah, so
it's the same manpower that comes to block the event.
So I think the motives are usually pretty obvious. I think they should find better excuses to blocking these activities.
Right. Yes,
as opposed to that, I think that does not make a logic.
But you know, I think that there is no logic. There is no better excuse from blocking you from having the rally. That is why we will just tell you there's no manpower.
So really now, if we're trying to analyze this, what really goes on? Is it a question of probably trying to stop people from getting the message?
Not stop people from getting the message. Stop you from taking the message to the people.
Okay.
Yes, that is what it is.
Yeah, so you make sure that this message does not reach people. If we're talking about, let's say, anger, let's say we're talking about
you want
jobs
to talk about
and everything.
To do with jobs, issues to do with the high cost of living.
You may be gaining political mileage.
Yes, you will be gaining political mileage and you'll be discrediting me. So I can't allow you to go and say that to the people that I also want to vote for me. So I will tell you to say, no, you can't do that because we need to provide security and there is no manpower to provide security to you. And then when you insist, no, I think I have my own ways of protecting myself or providing my security to myself. Then we bring Land Cruisers and these kasarangas of police officers to come and prevent you from having the meeting. The same police officers who you feel that could have come to protect you as you are having the right are the ones that are coming to block you from having the meeting. That is how sweet and sour the Public Order Act can be.
Yeah, indeed, and we saw Mr. Guest Nyirenda there reminding us of the need to replace it with the Public Gatherings Bill. And quite important sentiments there coming from that. And we hope we make progress in that. But also we had some stories pertaining to the court, and we had a story where the Opposition Patriotic Front Vice President Given Lubinda has asked the Lusaka High Court to dismiss a case in which Matelo area Member of Parliament Mao Sampa has commenced contempt proceedings against him. Mr. Lubinda tells the court that the case should not be entertained due to some irregularities. In this matter, Mr. Sampa has commenced contempt proceedings against the duo, arguing that Mr. Lubinda appointed Mr. Nakachinda as Secretary General of the party, knowing well that the court directed that they desist from acting as such. So let's look at this story. We'll be back on the other side.
Patriotic Front Vice President Given Lubinda has urged the Lusaka High Court to dismiss the case, where Matero area Member of Parliament Mao Sampa has commenced contempt proceedings against him. In the latest submissions, Mr. Lubinda urges the court not to entertain the committal proceedings by Mr. Sampa due to some irregularity. Mr. Lubinda further claims of not being personally served court documents, stating that he has not been served a notice of motion for an order of committal, affidavit in support, and the statement accompanying the application for an order of committal. He says the committal proceedings are not competently before court, hence the need to set it aside or dismiss it. In this case, Mr. Sampa, who is also Patriotic Front presidential aspirant, has commenced contempt proceedings against Mr. Given Lubinda and Raphael Nakachinda, arguing that Mr. Lubinda appointed Mr. Raphael Nakachinda as Secretary General of the party, knowing well that the court directed that they desist from acting as such. In February 2023, Lusaka High Court Judge Timothy Katenekwa granted Mr. Sampa an ex-parte order of interim injunction restraining Mr. Luwinda Nixon Chilangwa from holding themselves out as acting President and Secretary General of the PF until the final determination of Mr. Sampa's lawsuit against them. Previously, the material lawmaker filed a certificate of agency telling court that the matter is of extreme urgency because Mr. Luwinda Nakachinda were busy acting in total breach of the injunction on record. He also alleged that the duo were threatening to expel him from the Patriotic Front Party. Meanwhile, lawyers representing Mr. Mouse Sampa from Mrs. Bancroft Legal Practitioners have withdrawn from representing Mr. Sampa on account of failure by the plaintiff to provide the lawyers with proper and timely instructions. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Well, there you have it. Those are the issues bordering on the former ruling party, the Patriotic Front, and they continue with those court cases. However, others have been of the view that they are derailing their progress for them to reorganize themselves as a formidable opposition political party, being Zambia's largest opposition political party. And Zambians are expecting more from the opposition PF. However, 2 years down the line, they still don't have a substantive leader, and rumors of the comeback of former President Edgar Lungu continue, and we are seeing that this has also raised the interest of those in authority, and they want to see if they are going to take on the former president head on, especially in the political field. And this is something that is of interest, cause.
Yes, very interesting indeed, and it's unfortunate because the PF is supposed to be one of the biggest opposition political parties. So for me, I feel that they must work at resolving the differences as soon as possible. They go to the convention as soon as possible, and then now they can concentrate on giving checks and balances and also reorganizing the party, because I know that quite a number of people have gone to Rainbow from the Patriotic Front, and others we've heard where the UPND SG are joining the UPND. So there is need to ensure that they organize their structures at grassroots levels. So they need to put their house in order and begin to do activities that will help the party grow and become a force. We only have less than 2 years to 2026.
Indeed, 2 years to 2026, but they still don't have a leader. And now, in case you want to join the conversation, you can call us and give us your perspective on what we are looking at this morning. You can equally give us a message on our Facebook page, and we want to hear from you, or dear viewers, wherever you are watching us from. Tell us where you are watching us from and give us your views and contribution on the program. Kozi, what other stories do we have?
We have an interesting story coming from the Professional Teachers Union of Zambia, ProTUS, who have revealed that it is still challenging for teachers to request transfers despite meeting the 4-year requirement. Now, ProTUS Secretary General Kangwa Musenge explains that there is a need for harmonization of policies in line with the presidential directive to reunite families. Mr. Musenge has since called for the Ministry of Education to expedite the process for reuniting teachers through transfers. Here's a report.
On Friday, 7th April 2023, then Civil Service Commission Chairperson Peter Mumba disclosed that over 500 civil servants had been reunited with their families in line with Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema's directive. While the directive was received with open arms by stakeholders, a teacher union has revealed that teachers in some parts of the country are still facing challenges to reunite with their families even after meeting the prescribed requirements, such as being in the civil service for 4 years. Professional Teachers Union of Zambia General Secretary Kangwa Musenge says despite the affirmation by the Minister of Education Douglas Yakalima for teachers to request for transfers after serving for 4 years in the service, not much has been realized.
We agree that the pronouncement by the President that couples should be reunited to avoid divorces and even affecting the public service work has been very slow. We still have couples who are still separated even after meeting the criteria of 4 years. which is not going down very well.
Mr. Msenge is however proposing that the process be sped up because families are crumbling due to distance barriers between the spouses. He says this matter should be regarded urgently as one of the solutions to avert the challenges teachers continue to face in the country.
Teachers of Zambia, we're encouraging the ministry to expedite to those couples to be with their loved ones. But again, we are also appealing to the Ministry of Education that the period of 4 years has been much more, it's a long time. We need to reconsider the fact that those who are serving in those areas and they're separated from their beloved ones, they need to be with their couples.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Thank you very much, Nelson. So that is about the reuniting of families where civil servants who are married are working from different places, and this time we are talking about teachers and Protus calling on government to expedite the process of ensuring that families are reunited. Let's quickly look at another story that we have this morning. It says the Council of Churches in Zambia, CCZ, says some directive in the 2024 national budget needs to be revised before the budget can be fully implemented. Now, speaking at a media briefing on the analysis of the 2024 national budget, CCZ General Secretary Father Emmanuel Chikoya has opposed the government's proposal to continue giving tax holidays to mines, saying it is not benefiting the country. Now, Father Chikoya has also challenged the government to come up with mechanisms that will increase the production of maize in the country to lower the cost of mealie meal, adding that the explanation that maize export is the main reason for the increasing mealie meal prices lacks merit. Let's have a look at this report.
The Council of Churches in Zambia has weighed in on the 2024 national budget that was presented to Parliament by the Finance and National Planning Minister, Dr. Situmbe Komsokotwane, on the 29th of September 2023. CCZ General Secretary Father Emmanuel Chikoya has described the budget has not been pro-poor and says some pronouncements in the budget need to be revisited before the budget can be implemented.
Explanation that maize exports are the main reason for the increasing mealie meal prices does not hold water. We should be able to produce more to feed ourselves locally and also export. We shouldn't fill our prisons with people who actually should be helping to raise more money. Let's not experiment where food is concerned. Our call is that government should deliberately empower locals to grow maize for exports, as done, for example, in Southern Province regarding the sugarcane production.
In the mining sector, the church says the continuation in giving tax holidays to the mining sector is not helping the country, hence calling for more transparency and inclusion of the church in the Minerals Commission that government has established to monitor how mining activities is happening in the country.
Our belief is that once we have, if you're the only person who is supplying certain goods, it doesn't matter where you're located. People come because you have the goods they want. And so tax holidays, tax incentives actually make us lose more than gain. If people know we have unique gold, the emeralds found in Zambia are unique, they will come, no matter. Even if there was war, they would still come. There's a commission around minerals that has been created. Faith actors are not just being brought to pray when there's a crisis, but to be in those spaces where the face, the voice of the church on behalf of the people can be heard.
The church has also weighed in on the proposed revision of the Employment Act to allow for expatriate employees and giving of low land rates to foreign investors rather than the local investors.
The Minister of Finance is quoted, and I quote, "We have held on to a mistaken belief that the stricter a country is in permitting expatriate employees, the higher the number of jobs for local people. Experience from all over the world, in actual fact, points to the very opposite, said the Minister of Finance. As church, we disagree with this view. Jobs for Zambians, you cannot have laborers coming from Asia, from everywhere, and they are coming to do jobs that our own people can do. This is a narrative, I think, that needs to be challenged.
Among other proposals is for government to consider not increasing Constituency Development Fund CDF in next year's budget before finding a solution to the challenges that have been marred with the absorption of the resources. The church has also proposed to the government to find a lasting solution to the monthly fuel price review, which has contributed to the high cost of living, among other proposals. Prudence Jota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
He has established himself as an advocate for the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board, Restructuring Campaign Committee as coordinator. In 2023, during one of his protests, David Shimba was however arrested by the police and charged for idle and disorderly conduct. As the frontrunner Shimba has been demanding government to reduce monthly percentage payments of loans by students to 2.5% of their salaries. He has also been demanding a scrap-off of interest and suspend repayments in the meantime due to economic hardships. Speaking after being handed a 21-day suspended sentence at the magistrate courts in Lusaka Monday, he vowed to continue with his activism.
Representing our graduates, we are going to continue with our cause for the restructure of the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Board. We are not going to succumb to any intimidation tactics or machinations which are intended, to derail us from, the cause that we have picked up.
Shimba says he will soon organize a protest for the same cause.
So, in that regard, we are planning to have a protest. But in this case, we are going to apply for a permit.
Currently, students who are sponsored under the government loans program are required to pay back in 10 years at a percentage deemed fit. President Hakainde Hichilema, however, whilst in opposition, promised to suspend loan payments for students, citing economic hardships, and promised to restructure the scheme. For now, interested parties can only wait when this promise will be realized. For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
So those are some of the stories also that we are looking at today on the stories that are being zoomed in. We did look at the story of the churches, Council of Churches in Zambia, and also the story of that loan protest of that gentle student who is trying to get his message to the president as regards bursaries. Interesting stories coming through.
Yes, we can only hope that his advocacy will pay off one of these days, but he's been advocating that the president upholds his pledge that he was going to suspend the repayment of loans, especially by former students, and make sure that more students benefit from the loans and bursaries scheme. And so anyway, he's asking for what was assured.
Yes,
so I don't think he's asking something out of the blues. And but we can only wish him the best.
Yeah, and he says he will not be intimidated by all these threats that are coming. What he just wants, I think, is to see the promise being fulfilled.
Indeed. I think because this is where we have to call it today.
This is where we have to go. Remember that you have been watching the Camnet Breakfast with me and Patrick. Don't forget again to join us tomorrow morning as we bring to you another interesting program. But at 12 we have the lunch cafe.
Indeed. So we are going to have the lunchtime cafe at 12, and make sure that you join us for that program. And also remember to always keep it on Camnet TV for the rest of the progressive programming. Keep it on Camnet TV, not just another channel. This is where we have to excuse the screens.